What's up, guys? So today we're going to do a dive into my mindset video. You guys probably came from Instagram. If not, and you came from YouTube, that means my YouTube is growing and it's getting out to more people. But in order to understand this, we have to go through part of my story to understand where I got this mindset from. It wasn't just God given. I had to work my way up to get this mindset. So hope you guys enjoy. It was a pain in the ass setting this whole thing up. It took me multiple hours, but here we go. We got it. And let's go. Let's do it. So in order to understand where I came from, I always played football. That's me right there playing football. But I enjoyed weightlifting and I also ran track. I was always undersized. That was a big problem for me. And it wasn't a problem that I didn't want, because it made me work harder every single day. I started lifting, and lifting was my favorite. It was my passion, and I had to outcompete everybody else that had better God-given talents than me because I was smaller and I wasn't as big as everybody else. And it was just a huge, you know, confidence boost when I started getting better as all these people who had God-gifted talent, you know what I'm saying? But here is one of my worst games ever for football. I played it sophomore year and it was hard to recover from that. But the thing is, I used the gym as an escape. You could see it in the background here. When I had that bad day, I still went to the gym. The gym is the best place to get all your anger out. And that's what I recommend for everybody. If you're going through stress, just take it out in the gym. And it helped, but it didn't help fully. You know what I'm saying? Like the thought of how I did that game was still in the back of my mind, but it was a good way to use as an escape. And here, this is where it all goes downhill. Me and my girlfriend broke up. I won't put her in this video for the sake of this being posted on YouTube, but if you know, you know. And it actually wasn't her that broke up. It was me that broke the relationship up. And you know, my life just started going downhill from then because after that, I dislocated my shoulder playing football, and I couldn't use the gym as an escape because I dislocated my shoulder, and it was a tough, rough time for me. And I tried to fill the void by going with another girl, and that just made the situation even worse. One tip for you guys is to never, ever, if you get into a relationship and you guys break up, don't try and fill the void with another girl because I promise you, it won't fulfill you. Go self improve, go to the gym, and I promise you, that will fulfill you even way better than trying to go out with a different girl. It won't fulfill you at all. I experienced this firsthand. But this is just when my life just went downhill. I was depressed. I was sitting in my room for just hours on end, days on end, just doing nothing with my time. I wasn't even playing football. I was just on video games, just depressed. Easily one of the worst times of my life. And my life just started going downhill. But here, I recovered. My shoulder was still, it was still dislocated, but I didn't feel it as much. It was healing, but it was still popped out of my shoulder. You could still see it. So I started going to weight room again once I healed. You can kind of see it. I think I'm not sure which shoulder that is. I'm not sure if you could see it in that, if that's the shoulder or not. But my shoulder was still out, still popped out. And I started going to weight room again. I started feeling myself. I started to get in that mental space, that space that I get in, when I have something to prove because I didn't have as much talent. I wasn't as big as everybody else. And I just wanted to prove myself. And fast forward to summer workouts. And this was the game that ended it all. My shoulder didn't feel right. I didn't feel right in general playing football. And I just came to the realization when I got home, like, if anything went wrong with my parents, I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't have any money. I didn't know anything about business. And then I just felt ashamed of myself. I had all this athletic ability, but I had nothing to lean on if it didn't work out. I knew nothing about business. And I just came to my senses and I texted my coach. You know, it was time for me to take off the pads. That was my last day of pads. They tried to convince me to come back. Props to the coaches. I love Coach Marsh. I love all my coaches. But it just wasn't for me. Football will always be in my heart, but it just wasn't for me. And here we go. So since I started getting into business, we're gonna skip over a couple parts and we're just gonna go straight to the sauce. I met my boy Smith Reese on Instagram and YouTube. I started watching his YouTube videos. He truly changed my life. And honestly, without him, I wouldn't be in the position I am today. He changed everything, my mindset, just from learning from him, the Zoom calls that we had, the courses that he had. It just changed so much. The people I met in school, like the app school, not actual school, through his course, it changed my reality, it changed everything. He also taught me more about business, and I was going all in on e-commerce and drop shipping. And he recommended me these two books, and honestly, I recommend you guys reading these two books. The Reality Transurfing book, I barely understood it, but I just read, I just kept reading it. I felt smarter. I understood some of it, but The Compound Effect, I definitely recommend you guys read that. It's a great book. And as you see in this photo, I was strict on my routine, but you know, I took the cold showers, I meditated, I read, I structured out my day, I stuck to it. That was probably one of the most disciplined times of my life. But the thing about it is that I wasn't going to the gym as much as I needed to. I wasn't focused on the gym as much as I wanted to be. I was so focused on the business. I spend like hours on end the whole day just working on my business, just trying to get better, trying to solve all these problems, trying to retire my parents. There was this one time, I won't go too deep into it because it's kind of personal. There was this one time I was in the car. It was around Christmas, and you know, it hurts to see your mom break down, you know what I'm saying? Because she wasn't getting as paid as much as she needs to be being paid, because she is such a hard worker and she deserves way better than she's getting right now. And it just hurts to see your mom break down like that. So it just made me want to go all in even more. It just flipped the switch for me, and I just kept going. I kept pushing. And for this, I'll forever be thankful. I took that leap. I started my personal brand. The first couple videos were my worst videos ever. They were so cringy, so corny. I remember the first talking video I did. I kept stuttering. I kept cutting out the video. It was just horrible. And but the thing is, I kept pushing. I didn't let people's opinions affect me, and I'm proud of myself. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. And that's why I'm here today. I kept going. And you know, I met my boy Flynn on Instagram, and I realized he does fitness coaching and he makes so much money off of this. He makes more than 40,000 a month off of fitness coaching. And guys, he is my age. He is 17 making this much money. So that just gave me so much hope. And I knew that I was passionate about fitness coaching, and I was always lifting my entire life. Freshman year I was benching 205 at like 120 pounds. That just says something. I was just passionate about that. And I don't want to work a job that I'm not passionate about. And I'm sure you guys don't want to either. Escape this 9 to 5 life and just become rich and successful. And David Goggins. I recommend every guy, every girl get this book because that truly changed my life. It changed the way I thought about just my perspective on everything. My discipline just became even stronger, and I realized that I should be grateful. Anybody should be grateful for the position that they are in right now if they're watching this video, because David Goggins, he has been through so much, and just getting into his mindset is just something, it's truly unimaginable. I recommend every single one of you guys read this because it truly helped shape my mindset. And after that book, I started getting into fitness coaching. I decided to start the uh 5 a.m. run series. And it was just a crazy mindset change, and I started getting into that mental space, that disciplined space, that proud, waking up at 5 a.m., going to a run, feeling proud of myself, knowing that not everybody does this. I felt proud of myself. And right now I'm currently on day like 60 or something. I'm posting them on my stories, so you won't really see them as reels anymore. Um, but I'm just so proud I started that journey, and I don't regret any bit of it. And I've learned so much along the way from it. And also, I started this because funny story, every day, my mom knows this. Almost every day I missed the bus and I had to walk to school. She almost sent me to my dad's house because of how much I missed the bus. She got tired of it, and I also got tired of walking to school. And posting these runs was a weird way to keep me up, keep me disciplined, keep me accountable. People saw that I posted this, and I had to keep going. There was no way out. And fast forward a couple months later, I still was listening to David Goggins, but this time I really listened to his message. I really studied it. I listened to podcasts. I reread his books, and I listened to all his podcasts. And you know that discipline it just shot through the roof, and I just became the person that I am today. I became that person. I became that person that I envisioned of becoming. And now I'm so disciplined. Like, it's hard to even believe how good I am at being self-disciplined. And my younger self would be proud. But I want to say there was this one podcast I watched on Spotify. I don't remember what it was called, but there was this guy. He ran hundreds of miles, and it just gave me so much motivation. Run. I knew I could run a marathon if he could run 100 miles, and I decided to do this on no training. Here we are. I was trying to get to a marathon, but I only got to 21 miles. It got late, and my mom called me back inside. You know, what's done is done. I couldn't really do anything about it because I did it on the school night, but I finished off at running 21 miles at 17 years old with no running experience. When I tell you my legs were killing me, like my whole body was sore, my back was sore, everything was sore for the next couple of days, but I thugged it out. I went through with it, and I'm so proud of myself for doing that. But, you know, after that, I watched some more David Goggins. You know what I'm saying? And I was just hungry for more. And I decided to do 500 pull-ups, and I completed it in an hour and 51 minutes. The running 21 miles was definitely crazier than the 500 pull-ups, but through these two challenges, it just let me know that anything is possible. And these two things right here, they really developed my mindset. My Sorry guys. It really developed my mindset. And I recommend each of you guys trying to go out and achieve something like this, trying to go out and run a marathon, trying to go out and do as many push-ups as you can, trying to go out and do as many pull-ups as you can, because you can do anything. You can push yourself as far as your mind takes you. Your body will keep going as long as your mind keeps going. And that's one key thing that I've learned. And it just helped shaped me so well into the person I am today. And here we are today. Brings us to now. You know, about a month later since those challenges, I've developed some key growth, and I've been learning from some key mentors and online coaches that I've reached out to. And I'm hoping to grow my fitness business even bigger. Just keep going, outbeat all of my competition and help all of you guys. I want to help all you guys on your fitness journey. I want to help you guys achieve, that build, that self confidence, that dream body that you want. Once I'm able to give you guys that dream body that you guys been looking for, I'll be satisfied. The money is cool, the cars are cool, the results are cool, but what's cool is being able to transform lives, being able to know that I've helped people. That's what's cool. The work that you put in is what's cool, not the result. The work that it took you to get there is what's cool. And I just want to let guys know that all is possible with God. Everything is possible with God. But a little bit of sauce before I end this video. Before you go to bed, meditate for 5 minutes, and when you wake up, meditate for 5 minutes. Use that as a chance to connect with God. I've said that in my stories, and I'm just going to say it again because it helps so much. It helped me build that disciplined character. It helped me have a clear mind. The first like minute or two, I'm praying to God. The next minute, I'm telling myself my goals, my aspirations, what I want to do in life, and then the rest, I'm just meditating in silence. Clearing my mind, getting into that space. I recommend all of you guys do it and build a morning routine. I can't stress that enough. If you have a good morning, you're gonna have a great day. You know. But this is the end of my YouTube video. I hope you guys got some key points from this and can understand me more as a person. So I'll see you guys in the next YouTube video. It'll probably be a couple days from now, probably like a day or two from now. And I'm happy I was able to share this with you guys. I'll definitely get more in depth. This is not even the surface level of my story. I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more pain that I've went through, so much more that I've went through. And I'm excited to share that with you guys. You guys could follow my journey. But this is the end of the YouTube video. I'll see you guys later. Peace.